Good afternoon, everyone. Today, my group and I will be presenting our responses to the questions outlined by Matthew Guilford in his industry lecture on Woolworths Group. My name is Hugo, and today I'm joined by Alessia, Giselle, Ishan, and Rahul as we delve into the intricate dynamics of global talent acquisition and global mobility. First off, I will be talking about the global mobility function and the support it provides to the talent team. Then Alessia will outline some of the key challenges in sourcing talent overseas, followed by Giselle, who will discuss strategies businesses can utilize to ensure people hired overseas succeed. Ashan will then provide details on how the global mobility function can reduce its environmental impact. And finally, Rahul will discuss the more micro-related problems associated with global mobility. So first off, what is the global mobility function and how does it support the talent team in hiring internationally? Well, the global mobility function at Woolworths Group plays a crucial role in the complex landscape of international hiring. Essentially, it acts as the bridge between talent acquisition and the talent team. Before extending a job offer to a prospective international candidate, global mobility must identify the relevant challenges and offer valuable insights to the talent team. In the preliminary phase, the global mobility function supports the talent team in understanding potential relocation costs, bottlenecks, immigration requirements, and other nuances specific to hiring from a particular country or region. This preparatory consultation ensures that talent acquisition teams are not navigating in the dark and can preempt potential pitfalls, making the hiring process more streamlined and efficient. A primary consideration of the international hiring process is ensuring that the candidate possesses the legal right to work in the hiring country. Here, the expertise of the global mobility function is paramount. The goal is clear to ensure the candidate is onboarded in a timely fashion, fully compliant with all local regulations. However, whilst this is a salient factor of the function, the role of global mobility at Woolworths Group isn't confined to just paperwork and legalities. As Matt Guilford, the senior mobility manager at Woolworths Group, pointed out, recognizing the human element in mobility allows for smoother facilitation and transition for successful candidates. This is something the global mobility function stresses to the talent team when hiring internationally. From the logistical aspects of moving, such as shipping personal belongings or scouting for suitable housing, to more nuanced tasks like assisting in opening bank accounts in a new country, the scope is vast. Such endeavours, while seemingly mundane, can be daunting for someone relocating internationally, and the support provided in this phase is instrumental in ensuring a smooth transition. Equally vital is the cultural acclimatisation of the candidate. Drawing on Hofstede's cultural dimensions, the team must recognise the potential for cultural differences, especially in power distance, long-term orientation, and uncertainty avoidance. By acknowledging these factors, the global mobility team often facilitates cultural orientation sessions or language training workshops, as Matt pointed out in the presentation on Woolworths Group. Such endeavours are aimed not just at making the candidate effective in their role, but ensuring that they and their family feel at home in their new environment. Financial implications are another significant facet of international hiring. The global mobility function allows the talent team to access different countries' taxation structures and codes, which they must abide by. Working abroad can have multifaceted tax implications. The global mobility team, armed with expertise in this domain, guides the candidate and the talent team, respectively, through these murky waters, so to speak. They do so by connecting them with expert tax advisors, well versed in expatriate tax issues, and ensuring that the candidate is neither at a disadvantage nor inadvertently flouting any local regulations. Compensation and benefits are other areas where the global mobility function offers valuable insights. Different countries have different living standards and costs associated. It's imperative that the compensation package extended to the candidate is not just aligned with their skill and experience, but also competitive for the location. Similarly, Understanding local benefits and ensuring the employee has access to these or suitable alternatives falls under the purview of the global mobility team. Once the candidate is hired, the role of the global mobility team doesn't end, as Alessia, Giselle, Ishan, and Rahul will now go on to explain.
Thanks, Hugo. Hi, everyone. My name is Alessia, and I will be examining some of the key challenges that are associated with sourcing talent from overseas, despite the positive impacts it can have for companies such as the Woolworths Group. Despite being predominantly Australian, some of the smaller brands within the Woolworths Group are expanding significantly across areas such as New Zealand, Asia, South Africa, Canada, the US, and the UK. This comes largely as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, where international border closures and difficulties in retaining and attracting staff forced companies to make workers redundant and implement policies that allowed staff to work from wherever it was possible. The pandemic led to a skill shortage in Australia, where companies such as the Woolworths Group were forced to look beyond national borders to attract talent internationally. Cost pressures also impacted the global mobility sector of the Woolworths Group and forced them to restructure their processes and strategies to avoid financial loss. Although this has been mostly successful in allowing companies to continue operating and generating revenue, it does not come without its challenges. A key challenge when hiring employees internationally involves various employment and taxation laws. Global mobility is part of human resources, which must coordinate with other functions of a business, such as legal, payroll, talent acquisition, tax, and immigration. To create a global competitive advantage, the actions and policies of a company must link to the objectives of the organization, as well as each business function. A key challenge presents itself when considering talent from outside the business's home country, in this case, Australia and New Zealand, to ensure consistency throughout the company for the purposes of training, employee rewards, termination, work hours, communication channels, and remuneration. A pestle analysis of the Woolworths Group from a political, legal, and economic perspective shows that a key challenge for companies sourcing talent from overseas is complying with different employment laws across varying jurisdictions. The Woolworths Group must assess matters such as the payment and taxation of employees, appropriate leave conditions and entitlements, working hours in different time zones, and which public holidays the worker will follow. The Woolworths Group must consider whether compensation for employees will be aligned with the home or host country, as well as whether any additional benefits such as allowances or support will be provided. General employment tax compliance is a smaller issue for the Woolworths Group, considering they are currently conducting short-term remote work contracts, and so the regulation and reporting obligations for applicable tax is less prevalent. However, should the Woolworths Group provide long-term remote contracts, this will become a greater challenge for their business functions to adhere to. A second challenge involves the differences in culture. In order to be culturally inclusive, a single approach to business operations does not always work, and the Woolworths Group may encounter challenges if applying one recruiting strategy to all geographical locations. General standards of living, working conditions, and education and skill levels are key factors that must be acknowledged and accounted for and will require Woolworths Group to adapt their international market entry strategies. This may become a challenge for the Woolworths Group in spending time and money engaging and communicating with different cultures that can impact communication and retention strategies, training, and research and development. For example, communication styles and cultural nuances between countries may differ, and one may prefer a formal style of communicating and perceive it as disrespectful if someone from another culture does not reciprocate the same style of communication. The social and environmental aspects of a pestle analysis can assist in determining what strategies will be effective for the cultural sensitivity of the Woolworths Group. Greater cost expenditure in training and development will equate to a more diverse and culturally sensitive company and avoid cultural misunderstandings, which will allow for employee retention and company success in the long term. This may be in the form of a consultant who is familiar with the culture and establishing business relations overseas who can assist in correcting policies and processes to foster a culturally inclusive environment for all employees, no matter the geographical location. A final challenge for the Woolworths Group involves the costs of international recruitment, training, and development. Each country has varying regulations on the local recruitment processes that are allowed according to custom and domestic law. Further funding by the Woolworths Group ensures that research into these norms and standards are adhered to when searching for talent overseas. Investment into research and development can be costly for the Woolworths Group to ensure compliance with advertising disclosures, intellectual property rights, and user privacy protections when trying to retain international talent. However, widening the net to an international market means widening the business's recruitment investment, meaning more time and money is spent when a position is opened and advertised in the overseas market. Using a SWOT analysis, strengths and opportunities can be found in using these resources to hire skilled workers that will fit the candidate's role successfully and generate revenue for the company, outweighing any financial loss of the recruitment initially. However, despite these challenges, Giselle will now examine how the Woolworths Group can support overseas recruitment and ensure their success. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Alessia, for establishing those challenges in context. Now we're going to analyze how the Woolworths Group Global Mobility function can support the ensured success of these employees through the three main key pillars: practical assistance, cultural integration, and professional development. Alessia previously discussed the subcategories of these three pillars, which you can see here. As Matt's lecture highlighted, and this is the actual graph that he used, the Woolworths Group already takes some considerations into account in form of a PESTEL framework with 9 key considerations that mostly touch on taxes, law, performance, and rewards in regards to employees. The Woolworths Group also provides 24/7 access to wellbeing resources, as well as registered nurses and health clinicians through their partners Sonda and I Am Here. With all the above, it's a decent starting point, but it honestly lacks support for personal and career development, confrontation of challenges, and implementation of proven effectiveness. If we look at organizations who actually fail to support their internationally hired employees, they often encounter these 3 top things, and this is based on academic research. So they have a shortfall in specialized training because executives or HR dismiss the difference between markets and unjustify the cost of adequate training needed. As we've seen in previous units, such as international business operations and cross-cultural management, the transfer of skills needs to be catered to each cultural market. Secondly, employee fear. The employees feel shamed or scared to voice their concerns, ask for help, or voice their discontent at the risk of looking ungrateful or unqualified due to the large investment the company has already spent on relocating them. And lastly, the lack of specialized resources. More often than not, companies assign the selection, training, and support of these international hires to the HR department, who have usually never even worked overseas themselves, and so they have little understanding of the unique personal and professional challenges that are faced by these employees. On the contrary, companies that manage to support their international hires really effectively recognize 2 top things. Firstly, that international transfers focus on knowledge creation and global leadership development. It's not to fill an immediate business gap, but it's rather to generate and transfer knowledge and develop their global leadership skills, or do both at the same time. And secondly, that overseas hires should be selected on the premise of that their technical skills actually match or exceed their cross-cultural abilities, which means it shouldn't be automatically assumed that just because someone can perform really well in their home market, that they can automatically do that in a foreign market without kind of the same support or the proper support put in place. So here is a visual representation of the proposed pipeline that can ensure more effectiveness in terms of international hires for the Woolworths Group. Firstly, we start with their EVP. Woolworths needs to assess and define their EVP because this is what attracts and maintains and also motivates talent when hiring internationally and relocating employees. This encompasses their compensation benefits, career development, work environment, and work-life balance. A well-crafted EVP makes an international relocation more attractive and manageable for an employee. An analysis to identify the cultural differences between the home country and host country to assess variances to guide a few things. Firstly, the choice of hiring market. Secondly, the hiring of the actual employee. And thirdly, the training required. This sets expectations for required resources and effectiveness. The Woolworths Group also needs to design and provide cultural intelligence training to help employees understand the cultural nuances of their new location, and this enables them to communicate effectively and work efficiently in that market. Then they would move into a gradual transition process where the employee undertakes short-term assignments in the new market before the actual transfer or transfer to a management role. And this allows familiarization with the new environment, reducing the shock of relocation, but it also puts into practice the cultural intelligence training that they underwent. And lastly, but this is also at the beginning and end of the process, because this is an overall strategy for Woolworths as a whole. Their transnational strategy, they need to have a dedicated internal team whose focus is to actually leverage both global efficiency and local responsiveness by providing cultural training, knowledge transfer of the local market, the standards and the procedures that are in place. And if needed, they might need to do linguistics training. This team should be a specialized team of local consultants or employees who can understand both markets. And Woolworths might even want to go a step further and really customize this team. For example, if they know that they're going to be focusing on hiring, people out of the UK, for example, this team should be made up of expats who are really specialized in transferring themselves from the UK market to the Australian market and things like that. So, all in all, these practices are grounded in international business theories, and they ensure that these employees can adapt to their new roles and succeed in their international assignments, which would allow the Woolworths Group to maintain international talent. I'm now going to pass over
Thank
to
you, Giselle. My name is Sean, and I'll be sharing my perspective on how Woolworths can take profound steps into reducing its impact on the environment. In doing so, I hope to address numerous aspects of their operations, including traditional assignments, short-term based project assignments, long-term assignments, business travel, and permanent relocations, as well as how corporate social responsibility links into all of these. First theme we have here is traditional assignment types. Traditional assignment types within Woolworths can be remodeled to promote sustainability. Our group proposes an integration of corporate social responsibility principles by investing in technology and advocating for a paperless work environment. By reducing paper usage and embracing digitalization, Woolworths will not only decrease its environmental impact, but also improve efficiency and reduce operational costs. Moreover, a corporate social responsibility focused approach to traditional assignments involves working with a culture of sustainability among employees. Woolworths can encourage recycling practices and reduce energy consumptions within its offices by environmentally focused posters, as well as housekeeping meetings that are done frequently. Employees' engagement programs can be introduced to motivate staff to adopt more sustainable practices in their day-to-day tasks without affecting productivity. The next theme we have here is short-term project-based assignments. Short-term projects at Woolworths should also prioritize sustainability. To achieve this, the company can create project teams that include sustainability experts, ensuring that environmental concerns are embedded in the project planning and execution. For instance, these teams can focus on reducing energy consumption, minimizing waste generation, and adopting sustainable sourcing practices in line with corporate social responsibility principles. All of these can be done by obtaining customer feedback and launching customer loyalty programs with incentives. In addition, we do recommend setting specific environmental performance metrics for these projects. These metrics should align with CSR values, encouraging project managers and teams to minimize resource usage, waste regeneration, and ethical considerations in their work. Next, we have long-term assignments. These often involve employee relocations, and Woolworths can incorporate CSR by offering comprehensive relocation packages that emphasize sustainability. Employees can be guided to select eco-friendly housing, reduce commuting distance, and choose homes with energy-efficient features, which in turn make a substantial difference. These initiatives not only support environmental sustainability, but also enhance the quality of life for employees and their families, aligning with corporate social responsibility values. Furthermore, CSR can be integrated into long-term assignments by providing support and training for employees to adopt sustainable living practices in their new locations. These could include information on local public transportations, access to recycling facilities, and guidance on reducing their carbon footprint. This not only encourages sustainability, but also helps employees settle into their new homes more easily and supports community engagement and sustainability initiatives. Next, we have business travel. Business travel is a significant contributor to a company's carbon footprint, and so Woolworths can easily integrate corporate social responsibility into business travel through a reduce, offset, and optimize approach. Firstly, the company should focus on reducing the need for travel through the use of virtual meetings and telecommunicating wherever possible. This reduction approach aligns with corporate social responsibility values by reducing the company's carbon emissions and helping cut unnecessary pollutants. When travel is necessary, Woolworths can offset the carbon emissions by investing in renewable energy projects or reforestation efforts. Offsetting emissions is a direct application of CSR principles, demonstrating the company's commitment to environmental sustainability. Moreover, Woolworths can optimize travel arrangements by encouraging employees to select sustainable transportation options, choose eco-friendly hotels, and minimize single-use plastic consumption during their business travels. These practices not only promote CSR, but also align with Woolworths' commitment to environmental conservation. The next point we have is the last one, so permanent relocations. This can be a complex process, and Woolworths can integrate corporate social responsibility by providing relocation support services that prioritize sustainability. The company can offer information and incentives to employees to choose homes with good access to public transportation and implement recycling programs in new neighborhoods and select energy-efficient housing options. These initiatives demonstrate Woolworths' commitment to sustainability whilst also supporting employees in making eco-conscious choices. In conclusion, this presentation demonstrates the way in which Woolworths will be able to take advantage of our group's knowledge and skills set and in turn reduce its carbon footprint by adopting the suggested themes. By simply promoting high usage of recycled goods and increasing public transportation or greener transportation, as well as supporting eco-friendly houses and projects, our team will be able to increase Woolworths' efficiency via the corporate social responsibility framework without affecting profit and reputation. Up next, we have Rahul. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. My name is Rahul, and I'll be giving the final touches on this presentation by talking more about the micro problems that have been raised about the Woolworths Group that have only been talked about briefly by my other members. This will include things like lack of proper policy, vastly differing time zones, and problems of fraud gathered from Matthew Guilford lecture on Woolworths Group. The first point is a lack of proper policy about how things like KPI measurements, rewards, and recognitions are measured. These are changed as the workplace shifts towards a more hybrid approach. The problem lies in the fact that the ways that we track progress of employees in the workplace do not apply on a one-to-one scale in an online environment. There have been different attempts made by WG as well as other international brands, but an outcome that is fair to both the employer and the employee is yet to be established. Secondly, differing time zones can make communications almost impossible. Matt himself was someone who had a brief stint of remote work in the UK. The time difference had made it so that he had to wake up at 4 a.m. just to talk with his clients on the phone to match Australian times. This is true for other countries which Alicia mentioned, like the US and Canada, where the time difference is 15 hours. While more back-end roles may find a remote-leaning hybrid easier to work with, the problem for forward-facing employees has not been addressed beyond working half days or at different times. The third point is culture issues that move towards holidays and timings. Alicia has mentioned this too, but I'd like to add a further problem that by introducing foreign employees, there can never be a standardization of holidays for them. There's Mardi Gras, Christmas, Diwali, Easter, Holi, and more. This leads to a request in holidays and time offs by employees, which are a sensitive issue for them. The idea of enforcing one holiday scheme is not possible, and there's a feeling of scrutiny cast upon line managers regardless of whether they give a holiday or not. There must be a system to address these issues appropriately and with care. Giselle did a good job of explaining a proposed solution with Hofstede's cultural dimension and CIT. The fourth point I'll be talking about is a feeling of being scrutinized in a minor problem talked about. Given that employees are working from home, the perception that they could have done more hours at home could fester in those who work in physical offices. This feeling could lead to pressure felt by remote employees. This too needs an answer, but it's not a major problem at the moment. Matt talked about how the learnings he got from being in the workplace was huge and that can't be achieved in a remote workplace. But that itself means that policies and training schemes should be figured out to train employees working remotely on the job as they work with WG. He has mentioned it was a challenge to be addressed. The sixth point I would like to talk about is the risk of hiring cracks and frauds. When hiring internationally, the problem that arises is whether the employee is actually skilled or faking their qualification and skills. Currently, WG hires mostly foreign top-level executives who they know through connections, which provides them security against fraud. But as they expand this to a major problem that must be addressed. WG doesn't have any metrics to measure sustainability in the area of mobility. Ishan's talking about sustainability, but a problem that lies in WG is that WG itself does not have any internal metrics to measure sustainability in the area of mobility. This leads to them rushing blindly into the field and making changes without feedback to determine if the methods were correct or not. With this, we are now at the end of our presentation. We've gone through Woolworths Group with a combination of our responses and questions we'd like to pose ourselves. Hugo started us off with explaining about global mobility and how it supports the talent team in hiring internationally. Then Alicia continued by explaining the key challenges in sourcing talents from overseas, like employment and taxation laws, as well as consistency among employees and cultural differences. Giselle then went on to explain how WG, despite all of these problems, can still support overseas recruitment and ensure their success. Giselle talked about what Woolworths is already doing, the challenges, as well as a solution framework that would solve all of these problems. Then Ishan went ahead and talked about a different aspect, about how Woolworths can reduce its impact on the environment. He explained this based on the different possibility assignments as well as business travel and permanent relocations. Finally, I tried to tie it all together by talking about the nitty-gritty details that my team members didn't have time for and providing a host of micro issues for Woolworths that aim to add our analysis. By doing all of this, I believe that we've done through a thorough job in explaining all of these problems and linking solutions we've learned through the course to explain our proposed frameworks and methodologies. Thank you for being such a wonderful and attentive audience.